Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to day 3 of the sober sessions where we are here, I'm here, answering your questions about sobriety and everything in that world to do with that stuff. So, thank you for joining me live. Please say hello in the chat. And if you have any questions you would like me to answer. So, if you don't know me, my name is Veronica Valley. I have been sober for 21 years. I got sober when I was 27 years old. I thought my life was going to be over. I thought that I was never going to have fun again. I was never going to go dancing again. And oh, how wrong I was, because sobriety's been amazing. Now, my 21 years of sobriety does not qualify me to help you with your sobriety. If you are going to get any help with your sobriety, it's very important that you go to somebody who is qualified, because there is a lot more to getting sober than getting sober. So I am a former psychotherapist. I was accredited by the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy in the UK, where I worked for about 7-8 years as a psychotherapist. I now work as a coach. I have various different coaching qualifications, and you can read about those on my website, veronicavalley.com or soberful.com. And the reason I'm just telling you that is you may have noticed, if you follow me or anyone else, there's a lot of sober people in this niche, and a lot of them are selling programs and all kinds of stuff. Some are great. Some are being sold by people who are completely unqualified and have no experience whatsoever in ever helping anyone get sober. It's like having a baby. I had a baby. I had 2 babies. I know a lot more about babies and kids and birth than I did before I had them. However, my experience does not qualify me in any way, shape, or form to help you have babies or raise kids, because there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. So I say that in the front of a lot of my videos so that you know you are here in front of expert help. I have worked in 2-3 different rehabs. I've actually started and run my own rehab. I've had a private practice of clients for many years. I've worked in the criminal justice system. I've worked with adolescents. So I have quite a lot of experience and qualifications to back all of that up. Okay, hey there. Hey, Androck. Hey, everybody else who is watching live. So again, if you have questions, please put them in the comments so that I can see them. So I'm going to start with a question from one of our Soberful members here, who's asking, would like to hear more on relationships with people who are still using and drinking. So there's quite a lot to that, and it's also very common, because when we are drinking and using drugs, we tend to surround ourselves by people who are doing the same thing, right? If you're drinking and getting drunk, you don't want to be around people who are not drinking. It just doesn't fit. So we tend to be around friends, peer groups, and often partners who drink in similar ways to us. Some people often marry their drinking buddy, and sometimes relationships are very much built around drinking and the role alcohol has in that relationship. Now, it's absolutely possible to get sober when your partner is still drinking. So there's various things here. So my husband isn't sober. He has never had a problem with alcohol. He drinks alcohol very, very, very occasionally. And to be honest, if I said, I'm really uncomfortable with you drinking, and he'd be like, okay. And if he never drank another alcoholic drink the rest of his life, he wouldn't even notice. He really just occasionally will have half a glass of wine if we're out for dinner with somebody who is having a glass of wine themselves. So that's not an issue in our relationship. Now, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with somebody who was drinking and getting drunk, because I just don't find that very attractive. It's just, you can't connect with them. They talk a lot of rubbish. So the first thing about when we stop drinking, it upsets the apple cart. So here's the thing, we surround ourselves with mirrors, and we surround ourselves with people who reinforce who we are and what we do. So if you have a peer group, or if you have a partner who drinks, and you are saying, I'm stopping drinking, I want to commit to stopping drinking because it's not good for me, I don't like what happens, etc., etc., then what that person will automatically think is, well, what does that mean about my drinking then? Well, if you're saying your drinking is a problem and we drink together, what are you saying about my drinking? And people will, you will find you'll get a lot of pushback because people don't like what you're now reflecting back to them. It makes them feel very uncomfortable and they don't want to change their drinking. Thank you very much. And it would be much easier if everything just went back to the way it was and you just went back to drinking, and they will try and persuade you in lots of different ways to do that. So it's really important to know that that's going to happen. So it will upset the apple cart if you are in a relationship with someone who drinks or uses drugs. And again, let's be real here, you know. What is the quality of a relationship or connection with somebody who is abusing alcohol and drugs? I mean, there's nothing real in that, right? There's nothing authentic in that. So if we're in a romantic relationship with somebody who does that, there's not a lot of realness there. Now, relationships are hard and complex enough when you're sober, let alone when you put mind and mood altering substances in them. People are irrational, they're not connected with themselves, they don't make good choices or good judgments. So you're dealing with all of that. Alcohol and drugs just make romantic relationships a whole lot more complicated. So be aware that your partner may push back and not like what you're doing. And what you have to decide, and I see this a lot, I've seen this in clients who have gone back to drinking because it makes other people uncomfortable. They don't want to drink, they want to stop, they want to be sober, but they have gone back to it because their partner has made them so uncomfortable that it's easier to do that in the short term. Of course it's not. First of all, we have to decide that we are doing this for ourselves, our own well-being, our own health, our mental health, our bodies, that we are doing this for ourselves. The second thing is we have to decide, we have to also let go of what other people think about us. So I would very much advise you to not try and get your partner to stop drinking. Do not persuade them. Do not tell them that they should stop or what you're doing. In fact, I would do the complete opposite. And that might sound counterintuitive, but here's why. First of all, they're not going to hear you because it's you. The second of all, nobody wants to be told that. They just don't, and they will just shut down and they won't be receptive. So you can approach your partner and they may be like, that's fine. If you want to do that, I'm not stopping, just so you know. But if you want to do that, fine, crack on. So you might want to say to them something like, thank you, I appreciate that. I just need your support while I do this. Is that okay? And they'll say, hopefully, yeah, you have my support. Then you want to say something like, that the support I need is just right now to not have alcohol in the house. Absolutely fine if you want to go to the pub or around your friend's house, no problem. You decide how and when you want to drink. I just would like to not have it in the house for the time being. This is not a forever thing, it's a right now thing. So that's what we call a boundary. You live in the house too, and you want to be clear what your boundary is, that you're absolutely, they can drink, do whatever they want, but for the time being, and it's not a forever thing, if they could just not drink, bring alcohol into the house. Now, that'll be interesting. Some partners will comply with that and be fine. Other people will push that boundary again and again and again because it's inconvenient for them and they don't want to and all that kind of stuff. And you have to decide what to do from there. The best way, and this can happen in relationships, I've seen it happen, is when someone gets sober, your life will change. You will look better. You will have more time. You will get more done. Your life will expand. And the people around you will see that. So it's really them seeing how things have changed rather than you telling them. And sometimes down the road, the partner joins them. They're like, it's just unavoidable how different you are after a year of sobriety. just life looks better, and their drinking just in comparison just feels harder and heavier and less fun. And sometimes they'll join you, but sometimes not. And what can happen is we become on different paths and we grow past that person, because we can emotionally grow when we stop drinking in a way that we just can't when we are abusing substances. And that may lead to a whole other conversation and set of choices. So I want to say that if your partner's drinking, you can still get sober. You have to make this decision for yourself and nobody else. And this is your business, nobody else's. And you have to go about it. You definitely need to get help, because it's just hard. This is not something we can do on our own. You need to have really good boundaries, and you need to just be an example of what sobriety can be, rather than telling someone that they should stop too. Okay, any more? If you have any questions, put them in the chat. So someone's asked, what are the telltale signs that you have become out of balance? What do you do to address this? So balance is one of the 5 pillars of sobriety. The 5 pillars are movement, connection, balance, process, and growth. So balance is, we have to balance our needs. We all have different needs. We all have sleep needs, health needs, friendship needs, family needs, career needs, all kinds of different needs that we have. And they change as circumstances in life change. Before I had kids, I ran every day. I biked everywhere, was really fit, was always going off on retreats and workshops and seeing my friends and And then when I had children, all of that changed because my circumstances changed. Now I still had those needs. I still had those needs to exercise, to see my friends, to grow spiritually, but I didn't have any time. So I had to change how I met those needs. And I knew those needs weren't being met because I was out of balance. How do we know when we're out of balance? Easy. It's when we begin to feel uncomfortable in our own skin. So when I just begin to feel I just don't feel comfortable being me, then I know that's a red flag that I'm out of balance. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm working too much. I just need to see my girlfriends. I need to exercise. We can feel it. So this is a lifelong process of balancing our needs. We have to recognize that our needs and how we change them. Again, I have kids, so a lot of my social life is around my kids. And I see my girlfriends, but it's nothing like how I was able to do that previously. But one day my kids are going to grow up and not going to be here and not going to need me. So I will have much more time to spend with friends, and I want those friendships to still be there. So I'm maintaining them as best I can with the time that I have. So when we begin to feel uncomfortable, that's a red flag. And I want you to stop and look at what needs are not being met here. What is missing? And I teach this a lot in my programs, and I about how to identify this and take action. And it's, sometimes it's several needs are not being met, and it's just not possible to address them all today. But we start with the most important one. So there's something that we teach to people when they are first sober, and it's the HALTs. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stress. They are all big triggers to wanting to drink. Those are needs that we have that when they are out of balance, we will feel them. We feel those things. We feel them physically in our bodies. So when you are feeling out of sorts, uncomfortable in your own skin, stop and check the HALTs. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I stressed? And then we can begin to do something about it. Hunger is something, we need to eat something relatively healthy now. Sleep, I need to get to bed early. Lonely, that's not such a quick fix, but it's really important to recognize it. Loneliness is one of the biggest triggers for drinking. And loneliness, it can kill. It's lethal. So if that's what is not being met, first of all, the first step is to recognize it and then begin to take steps. Text a friend, arrange to meet up, go to a support meeting. We have to put effort into connection so that we can treat our loneliness. Anger, what is the story that's underneath the anger? What's the fear? What's do you feel that you've been, somebody has mistreated you, or you've been, an assumption is being made, or get to the root of it and see if you can solve it. And stress, are you working too much? Are you taking too much on? Do you have terrible boundaries, and you're just piling more stuff on your plate and not saying no? Notice the feeling, identify the need, and take some steps to begin to change it, and then we can restore balance. This is the work of sobriety. We have to do this forever. I sometimes get out of balance, and I'm like, I need to do this, and then I do it, and then everything goes back in balance, and my life feels much easier again. So, next question. I've read a lot of questions read the semantics and stigma of recovery language and vocabulary. Yeah, this is really interesting, and I have a friend who campaigns against this a lot, about the words that are used to describe people who have a substance use or alcohol use disorder, which is the official term. That's what's in the DSM, alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder. For a long time we used the word alcoholic. A lot of people didn't identify with that and didn't like that and didn't want to be labeled that. The same with the word addict. Now, I'll give you my take on things. We absolutely need to change the language, how it's used in the media, and how people are, labeled with being an alcoholic or an addict, all that kind of stuff. And I will tell you, I use the term alcoholic to describe myself. And I'll tell you why. Because it's really first of all, I really identify it. I love the word, actually. I love that I am an alcoholic, because once I realized that was my problem, I was then able to embark on the solution. But here's why I like it. Because there is so much stigma about what an alcoholic is, and I thought an alcoholic was a smelly old homeless person. That I did not even the slightest idea that it was someone like me. So I like to challenge people's perceptions of what that word means. So I can be in my daily life, and people, we can have a conversation about what I do, and that people can say that's interesting and how did you get into that? And I will tell them I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I like to do that because I know that it shocks people. I know it's provocative. And I know I do not in any way fit the stereotype. They've known me for a while. I'm just like a middle-aged mom. That's it. And I do not fit what they believe that could be. And I want to challenge that stereotype that actually it's someone like me. And I use the word recovered. I have recovered from that. I am no longer that. I have recovered from it. And that, so it challenges that stereotype, and that they can see that we do recover. I may be the only person that they meet, but I really feel that you should use whatever you feel comfortable with. You really, whatever language or words work for you. And we should never label anybody else like that too. And we need to work on changing language. I may one day stop using it because it will be unnecessary. But for the moment, I still think it isn't unnecessary, and it's my way of challenging that stereotype. So question here, why does it feel so much harder to reach out and connect when we need it most? That's a really good question, and this is why. The reason that it's so hard to reach out when we need it most is because it means we have to be vulnerable. And we have a lot of fear and limiting beliefs about what being vulnerable means. So to reach out and say, I'm struggling, or I'm lonely, or I just need some connection, or I just feel very alone, or I feel misunderstood. To do that, you have to be, that's vulnerability. And we have very ingrained beliefs in our culture that being vulnerable equals weakness. And also being vulnerable, it means weakness. It also means that you're weak, you're not worth, like real men and strong women, don't complain and they get on. We have all of these ridiculous notions about what vulnerability means. And if you follow Brené Brown's work, you know that actually being vulnerable is a strength. It's an asset. So what happens is when we need to reach out when we need it most, we plug into all of these limiting beliefs we have about what being vulnerable means, and we just don't want people to see that way. I used to feel shame. I felt deep shame, and it prevented me from reaching out because I didn't want anyone to think I was weak, because I thought that was the worst possible thing in the world. Like, it got no worse than that. And none of those things are true. And I have found when I overcame my fear and the story I was telling myself, and I was reached out to someone, I was met with compassion and kindness. I would add one thing to that is be very discerning. Like, once when I was using and drinking, I reached out to a boyfriend and he laughed at me, and that wasn't a great experience. And I'll tell you why. I mean, we were coming down from drugs. Like, I'd chosen like literally the worst person at the worst time. So when I tried again, I was more discerning, and I opened up to a couple of people, and oh my gosh, the relief. You know, if anyone reaches out to me, I honor that, because I know how that feels. So the reason that it feels so hard is the fear of vulnerability, and all of that is just really limiting beliefs. So I think I have time for one more quick question. Someone says here, sometimes I don't have the energy or bandwidth to process or grow, or sometimes even move. Is it okay to refuse a call to growth or pause processing? Exhaustion in recovery, burnout. Yes, and I want to tell you why. That's about balance. You know, we have to always balance our energy and our needs and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, we may have this call to growth and, need to process our feelings, but you know what? Maybe we just need to eat lunch first or go to bed early. So we always need to, whatever the question, it's always balance. So yes, absolutely, balance your energy, balance your, getting your needs met, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you, someone who's Brave Retreats. I connect with so much of what you're sharing. Thank you. Wonderful. So Sober for Life, the subscription group that I run, is open for enrollment right now. It's filled with professional experts. We have a couple of nurses. We have a nurse practitioner teach workshops. We have some different psychotherapists and licensed addictions therapists. So it's a really low cost way to get in front of professionals to answer your questions, to give you support. So we have lots of different workshops. We have different workshops every month on lots of different subjects, all related to having an alcohol problem. So, we'll have workshops on how to have boundaries, how to improve your relationships, how to communicate better. We have a workshop on hormones. We have a workshop on food. We have a workshop on parenting and sobriety. All kinds of different, all related to being a sober person. So you can attend all those workshops, but you can, and there's a whole library of workshops that you can access, and you can also go to support calls. So if you just want to ask a question, connect, get in front of someone and say, this is what I'm struggling with, what can I do? Then there'll be there's support calls, I think, almost every day. So there's so many opportunities. It's a completely private platform. It's not on Facebook. You can join anonymously, and on top of that, we have people all over the world, so you can just post in there, like on the wall, and questions or whatever you want to say. People will respond. So it's a place for people who are ready to do the work of sobriety, who want to meet and connect with people, who want to understand why they feel the way they do, why they struggle the way they do, why they keep relapsing. Sober for Life is where you can take all of those questions. We're open for enrollment till the end of the week, and then the price will be going up because we are adding in more content. It's really almost like online rehab. I mean, there's just something every day that you can be doing and checking in with for low cost. I'll be back tomorrow. Join me then. I'll be answering your questions. You can submit them. I'll get to as many as I can. Same time, same place. See you then.